Hi kiddos. So for math today, we are going to be getting our math notebooks started. Earlier, you were asked to place your labels for each of your 4 notebooks on the 4 composition notebooks. The 5th one that you have will be used at a later time. So if you would go ahead and get your math notebook, we will be using these interactive notebooks every day in our lessons. So it's very important for you to stay organized, follow directions. You can pause videos when you need some extra time to complete a step. But for you to have your notebook look just like mine, you have this video to come back to double check that you are setting it up as I'm asking you to. This is something that when we get back to the classroom, we will continue to use. We will use this as a reference each night during homework. And it is going to be your anchor charts or your mini lessons for all the skills that you're learning this year to be in one place for you to reference. So the first thing we're going to do is take our notebook, and we're going to begin today with the setup of our notebook. So when you open up the front cover, you should see the inside cover and the first lined page of your notebook. This is going to be used as our title page. So we can ensure that we know who this notebook belongs to. You can get out crayons or colored pencils. In our notebooks, we do not use markers because we don't want those to bleed through and then make it hard or difficult for us to read what's on the back of a page. So when I ask you to just get out crayons or colored pencils, one of my favorite colors is green. So I'm going to use this, and on the first page, you are going to write your own name. Don't write Mrs. Ling. That's not your name. That's Mrs. Ling's name. So Mrs. Ling, I have an apostrophe S because that shows possession. So make sure you put apostrophe S, and then you're going to write math notebook. That way, if it's in color, we can see it. We can make sure that we have the notebook on the right desk or with the right person. You can take time later if you want to come back and to draw some pictures that remind you of what math is about. So the different symbols we might use in our equations or just some of your favorite shapes. When you turn the page, so you're looking at the back of the first page, on the second page, we are going to now go to your anchor binder to find the resources I've already printed out for you to have. Inside your anchor binder, you have lots of different color folders. Do not take those folders out. This ensures that you have your folders in a location that you will not lose. So this blue folder is inside your anchor binder, but for my video purposes, it is not in my binder. You do not take out your blue folder, just open your anchor binder. So in your blue folder, you will see that you have several papers that are either clipped together on one of the 2 pockets. The left pocket, you will see there's a label that these are going to be called your interactive notebook teach pages. Do not take these out until I ask you to take out certain pages during our lessons. On the right side, this is where I will store some of your math homework resources that you need for your nightly homework. Some of your other homework pages are in those workbooks and actual math textbook that were sent home in your basket as well. So keep everything in your folders unless I ask you to. Today, we're only going inside the left pocket that says interactive notebook. You have this black clip that you can unclip, but keep those papers flat so they don't get mixed up. They're in a very specific order. You are going to first take out the one that says cubes, flip it over, the one that says interactive notebook sentence starters. You're going to take out the one that says interactive math notebook. And the last one is where can we find math? You are only taking out those 4 sheets. Everything else needs to remain in there. So I'm taking my black clip, clipping those pages back to my folder, closing my folder that's in your anchor binder, and moving away from my workspace. When you have the 4 sheets that we're going to be using, you will see that most of them have a number in the corners to let us know what page we're going to use them on. So take those 4 sheets, set them off to the side because we're going to work with those today. The first sheet we have is going to be how we solve our math word problems. This is a method called cubes. We will not go over how to utilize this today. We're just placing this in the front cover of our notebook. So when we get to the lesson that we're using word problems, we can reference the steps in order to solve correctly. So in your notebook, if you would move that title page back, and on the inside cover, which means there's no papers between, I'm going to glue this down to my inside cover. You should have from your supplies glue sticks. And then the way that I usually glue is I start by gluing a frame, meaning I go around and make a border all the way around. And then I do an X across the center. That way I'm giving myself plenty of glue around the edges, but also across the center. So then go ahead and flip that over, and we're gluing this cubes reference sheet to the inside front cover. Now we're going back to that title page. Make sure you're only grabbing 1 page at a time. Flip the page, so now we're once again on the back of the title page. The next page that we're going to be gluing is the page that says page 2. Page 2 is going to explain how we're going to be using our interactive math notebook. So once again, we're going to start by flipping it over, using our glue stick to make a frame of glue. That means on the edges, like a big triangle or big rectangle or square, and then putting an X through the center. And this page 2 goes on the left page. So that's the back of the title page. We're going to go ahead and read some of this information so you can make sure that you are aware of how we're going to be using this math notebook. So I'm going to read it as you follow along on your own sheet. One thing you will learn about Mrs. Ling is that I am a very visual learner. So because I'm a visual learner, I like to use my highlighters to help highlight important phrases and words and steps for me to remember. So we as a class will also be using our colored highlighters. You are asked to get at least 4 of them. So right now you just need to pick 2 colors that you want to use. The lighter the colors, the better, because that way you ensure that you're reading the information on the actual page and it's not dark where you no longer can read the words that you want to highlight. So starting at the top, it says throughout this year, we will be using this math interactive notebook to keep track of information you most need to be successful in 4th grade. So we want to highlight that last bit of that phrase, successful in 4th grade. So the interactive notebooks are to help us be successful because we're being organized and keeping track of important information that we will need to know and reference in the future. The next paragraph says, this notebook is intended for your use. So I'm going to take my yellow color this time. And this is not just to put some information in and you never touch again. You are expected to come back to this resource and use it as often as you need to reference new skills, new lessons, and then just helpful information. As a teacher, I will be checking it after each chapter. So we're going to highlight after each chapter. And this is just a quick check for myself. If we were in the classroom, I would thumb through and check the pages to make sure you have page numbers where the page numbers are needed. You are using the highlighting the way that it's intended. You're not using highlighters to highlight everything on a page, which makes it challenging to see. But we're keeping organized and making sure that we're not losing important pages. Below is a diagram of how each set of pages will appear. Then in our 3rd paragraph, it says, do your very best. This is something that might be new for some of our learners. Some of you might have had a teacher in the past that have used interactive notebooks. So we are going to be working with them. So we're going to do our best to understand expectations and to follow those expectations to be successful. So do your very best and keep in mind that your learning is your job. You make this notebook to support your learning. Any notes that you make will only help you understand, succeed, and achieve. So the pictures on the bottom tell you what's going to appear on the left hand side of each of your page spread. A page spread is when you open up your notebook, and I'm looking at a left page and a right page. So on your left pages, you will typically have a teach page that will include songs, definitions, fill in the blanks, notes, examples of your work. On the right side, it's going to have your own examples, some of our showing of our understanding of the skills that are present in that lesson, ways to remember the skills. So you might have notes from Mrs. Ling or homework helping notes that we might jot down. We'll have additional visuals, pictures, shapes to help us understand the information we learn. And then we'll have the bottom of each of these pages, we'll have what we call a reflection. A reflection is going to be a written summary of what we learned that day. So our objective of our lesson. We will typically have at least 3 sentences explaining either the steps to solve a problem or reminders of those skills and what's expected. Now that we finished page 2, we're going to grab the page that says page 3. It has the stars all the way around. This is our interactive notebook sentence starters. So we're going to turn this over. Once again, get your glue stick, make your frame on the outside of that page, and then do your crisscross, this X on the back, and flip it over. Just like we were talking about just a moment ago, what is our reflection statements? Sometimes it's nice to have what we call a sentence starter or stem. This helps us start our sentences to make sure that we are presenting them in a complete sentence and as a 4th grade writer. So you can read through some of these examples, but in order for us to remember what this paper is for, we're going to highlight the title. So highlight where it says Interactive Notebook Sentence Starters. The last page we're going to work on today is if you take the same page from page 3, make sure the pages aren't sticking together. You're going to flip the page so you're looking at the back of the page you just glued on. This is the last page. This is saying page 4, where can we find math? So we're going to be gluing this to its side. So flip this page over, make your frame on the outside, and then once again do your X across the middle, and then you're going to glue it so the question is by the outside of your notebook and the bottom of the page is on the inside of your notebook. Once you're done gluing, you're going to rotate your notebook so you are able to look at this as you would on a different page. This next part is going to be your task for today's math class. So when we talk about math, we want to be able to realize that math is actually found all around us in our everyday life. So I want you to come up with some ideas where you can find math, either in numbers or different references that we might use. So I'm going to give you 3 examples that we're going to write down together, and I want you to come up with 3 more examples of your own. So one place we might see math and use numbers is when we use our phone number. Our phone number is made up of at least 7 digits, and then we add 3 more digits for our area code. So a phone number is one way that we might see numbers or math used in our everyday life. Another example is our age. To tell someone how old we are, we start counting the years or the months or the days from the date that we were born. The third example is going to be when we use money. When we put a value to a product that we either want to buy, we want to sell, we want to know its worth. So 3 examples that I want you to write down are phone number, age, and money. I want you to come up with 3 more examples that you can write somewhere in this box. Once you've written your 3 examples, come back. You can color in the words of math. You can make a design to make it a little bit more eye-catching. But that is the end of your task for our notebook setup for today.